Awesome. Yeah. So Zach is going to record this meeting. If you guys don't want your video on it, feel free to turn it off. If not, and you don't mind, we'd love to see your beautiful faces. So thank you so much. I am going to turn off the music and get started here. All right. So thank you so much for joining us for the virtual launch of Retire Intentionally, Stories and Strategies to Spend, Give, and Live with Confidence. So my name is Kylie Wells, and I'm proud to work with JJR Marketing and Fig Factor Media. So we do some marketing help with intention, and then we recently got to help Zach publish his book. We've got an exciting evening lined up for you guys, and I'll just give you an overview of what we're going to do during this meeting. So we're going to hear from Zach about his new book. We're going to get a chance to meet Glenn Wagner, who wrote the foreword for this book. I got a chance to hear from him a little bit earlier, and he is awesome. We're going to do a Q&A session with Zach, and then at the end, we're going to do a book giveaway. So somebody that's
Why do you win?
Sorry. Book.
See the heaviest?
So I'm just going to make sure everybody is muted real quick. I think we're good. Awesome. Okay, so I am going to introduce Zach, who most of you probably already know in all different various ways, it sounds like. So Zach Larson, co-founder of Intention Financial Partners, has spent over 2 decades dedicated to improving clients' lives through purpose-driven financial planning. His career began at Thrivent Financial, where he and his business partner, Corey Schmidt, built a foundation for their client-focused approach. In 2018, they launched Intention, to further empower individuals to live intentionally, grow purposefully, and give generously. So beyond financial planning, Zach is committed to community engagement, serving on nonprofit boards and coaching youth sports. He also cherishes his role as a husband and father to 4 sons. And he enjoys various outdoor activities that enrich his life and inspire his mission. So Zach, I'm going to turn it over to you to say a few words.
Well, it is an absolute thrill. For those of you who were coming on late, I did a quick round robin, but I've got people here from all different points in my life. And I want to thank you for your friendship, your support. Some of you knew I was writing a book, some of you didn't. But it's been a labor of love, and it feels good to be at this point. And some of you have read my books before. This is my first official one that'll be published on Amazon, but many of you have received my Christmas letter. So I've been practicing at this book writing stuff for a while. Anyway, this book has been in the works and really was about trying to amplify stories of many of you or people like you who've done cool things with their money, and to share some strategies and ideas that'll help others. And as I got into the process and I worked with professionals who've done it, they said, well, you got to have somebody write a foreword. And I said, well, how do you pick someone for that? How do you know what to do? And they said, well, think about someone who has your back, but think about somebody who has inspired you and who does cool things and has the respect of others. And it was an immediate thought for me at that point that my friend, my pastor, Glenn Wagner, is the person who wanted to do that. And Glenn, I'll give you a kind of a formal introduction here, but for those of you who know Glenn, you know that he doesn't need a formal introduction. Glenn is authentic. He's real. His roles are diverse. He's a pastor. He's a business consultant and coach to small companies and large companies. He's worked with Corey and me and our company in the past. He's a husband to his wonderful wife, Kathy. He's a father. He is an aspirational best grandpa ever. I know there's some people on this call that might try to compete with you for that. But in your own amazing way, you are just living intentionally, but you're a long way from retiring intentionally. Glenn's taken on a new chapter as he moved out of parish ministry at our church and into the workplace ministry. And so Glenn inspires people when he talks to them, and he wrote a cool foreword for the book. And I'm going to just turn it over to Glenn for a minute. And I think Kylie, you had maybe a couple questions for him.
Yeah. So thank you very much. And like I said, I had a chance to hear from Glenn a little bit earlier, and he is incredible. So I'm looking forward to what he's got. So Glenn, if you want to just share, what did it mean for Zach to ask you to write this forward? Or, if you want to put your own spin on it, what did you put in your forward that you think is impactful that people should know anything like that.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity. It's good to be with all of you. Some of the faces I recognize, some are new, and that's great. Love to meet new people. I've had the privilege of knowing Zach in many roles as a pastor, as a consultant to he and Corey, but also having him be a consultant to me on how do you think about this whole idea of money. But I've also spent time with him underwater as a scuba diver. I've spent time with him on a bike, riding hard. I've spent time with him in church. I've spent time with him in a lot of different ways. And when you spend time with a person in the variety of areas of their life and you get to see him show up as the real deal in every one of them, I will always jump in when Zach says, "Hey, can I ask you for some help?" So that's one of the things that motivated me. A second one is last November, I pivoted after 33 years of being a full-time pastor to go double down on entrepreneurship and start a company in executive coaching. And I get to work with people who are high net worth and entrepreneurs and executives. And so our lives cross in that we serve similar people. And a couple of things about Zach. I love that Zach is very much living out his intention. The name of the company, what Zach puts in his book, he wants people to be thoughtful and intentional with the bigger story around wealth and around money. And so I like to help people that I coach say, you can have all the data in the world and you've got to start there. There's data around how you think about money and finance and wealth, but you got to move up from data to information. What is it about that data that tells you what to do next? And then you got to move from information to knowledge. But Zach has actually gotten to the top of that pile, and Zach has some wisdom. If all you have is the first three, but you don't have wisdom, you're missing something existentially important and spiritually core. And that's what Zach brings. What is the meaning of all this in your life? How do you want to live your life as you get to that place called retirement and beyond? And most of the people that I work with, they want to know how to leave a legacy and they want to know how to make an impact. I was sharing a story on a call that we had just a little while ago, prepping for this. And I don't want to bring things down, but I want to make it serious because that's kind of what I do. As a pastor, I've had the privilege of doing about 130 funerals. And they say death and taxes. I know people who have a way of getting out of taxes, but nobody's getting out of this story alive. One day we will all get to that place. And as a person who has more time in back of me than I do in front of me at age 66, I want to know, how do I leave a legacy? And I've done funerals for people where it's me and the undertaker because everybody's at the lawyer's office wanting to know, when do I get my piece? And then I've done funerals where the church is packed, standing room only, because people say, he or she was a great human being and they built a great company and they cared about their family and they cared about employees and they cared about their clients and they made an impact in the wider world. And that's why I wanted to jump on and write a foreword for Zach's book. I want to see this book and Zach's influence get in front of as many people as possible because he's the real deal and he can help you think through your life and the meaning of your life and how you express that with the resources that you have, with the life that you have. And that's really important. I think people need to make some serious, thoughtful choices in their life. And Zach does that. He's also a fun guy, a good guy to get to know. And if you have a chance to ride a bike with him or go diving with him, do that too. But that's why I jumped in, and it's an honor and privilege to know Zach and to call him a friend and to write a forward that was a slam dunk.
Thanks, Glenn. That's incredibly humbling and honoring. And Glenn did really jump into this because I kind of put him on the spot a little late for it. And he was leaving on vacation. He said, "Nope, I'll read the book." And he wrote the foreword, and I am grateful for that. Glenn, you talk so openly about things that are often tough to talk about, death and life and money. And that's one of the things I wanted to bring up in the book is like I get the privilege of talking to so
Mhm.
many of you and talking to people every day about something that's very private. And I wanted to open that up a little bit to the world to say, you know, it is okay to talk about money. It's part of our lives. And I hope that the stories in this book will inspire you guys to think about your money a little bit differently, and you can share that with others to encourage and inspire them. So, um, Kylie, I know you had some questions, but I was going to interject on something real quick too that came up. Uh, Glenn, Glenn and I were talking about this, like why even write a book? And it made me think about how did this all start? And I had to rewind a lot. It was probably over 23 years ago that like these ideas started to formulate for a book. And I went and found something today uh, that I haven't thought of for a while. And I dug it out of a cabinet here in my office, but it was the final term paper or final project for my business major at Augustana. And I want to I'm going to make you listen for a minute here as I just read rather than talk with you. But we had to come up with a business entity and then write a business plan and talk about core values and purpose and vision and all these things of this hypothetical company. But I was blessed. I was fortunate as a senior in college. I already knew what I wanted to do and I was on a path. And so I did the term paper on a real company that I was wanting to go start. So uh, I'm not going to go through all of it, but there was a section on purpose, and it says the sole purpose of my business is to help individuals and families improve their financial situation. What separates me from other professionals is the fact that I understand that having a better financial situation does not only mean making more money, paying fewer taxes, attaining more stuff, and accumulating greater wealth, but it can also mean giving away more money, working less, or helping others. My work then is to help people identify and prioritize their values and goals in order to tailor a financial plan that will best adhere to those values and achieve their goals in order to gain greater financial stability and freedom. That was 23 years ago, and it rings true today with what we're trying to do. So it's cool to be at this point. I'm going to now make it just a little bit less about me too as we get into some of the questions. So hopefully some of you will actually pick up the book, or we'll get you a copy, or you can buy it on Amazon. We were going to tell you you could buy it on Amazon today. If you searched it up, you would find it, but I'm going to actually ask you not to buy it today, and I'll tell you why in a second. But this is what it looks like. It's real. It looked like a real book when it came, so I was pretty happy about that. But as with anything real in the financial industry, there are about 10 people always looking over our shoulder to make sure that we do things correctly and in compliance. And we were told at the 11th hour that this book needs more disclosures in it than what it already has. So there's about 5 pages of disclosures all the way in the back that I'm sure you'll enjoy reading those. But it needs some tweaks and it needs more. So although it's out on Amazon, it's going to be edited, and we were asked to say don't buy it yet if you're so inclined. But within the next few days, those compliance disclosures will be edited and updated. We'll send out emails and LinkedIn notifications and things, and Facebook if you want to buy it. If you don't get around to buying it, let me just tell you who it's dedicated to. It's dedicated to you, to my clients who trusted me when I was young and who've become friends as we've grown together. I hope that you've learned from me just as I've learned from you, because that's ultimately what this book is. It's a lot of things that I've learned from conversations with you and people like you over the last 20 plus years about how to think bigger and think differently about money.
Beautiful. Thank you, Zach. And thank you, Glenn, as well. So like Zach said, we're going to do some Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, for Zach about the book, about the process of writing, about becoming an author, anything like that, you can send them in the chat. Or if you want to hop on and ask them, you're more than welcome to do that too. There's a little hand raise emoji, or I'll just keep my eye out on the screen to see if anybody wants to hop in. I did prepare some ahead of time, so I'm going to start with one to give you guys some time to think, and then we hope you'll hop in and ask some questions. If not, that's okay. So my first question for you, and I think you touched on this a little bit already, but so what inspired you to write Retire Intentionally, and how did your experience shape the content of this book?
Yeah, the inspiration then really is trying to amplify and magnify stories of people who have done cool things with their money. As I started to say earlier, we don't always get to share what we do with our money because it's a pretty private thing. But we talk a lot about generosity, which is absolutely part of that is giving back to God, giving to people who need it, giving to family. But something that I have experienced is that you can actually do all those things and then at the same time maybe not be generous to yourself. And I don't think that we're asked to be martyrs. I think that if you have blessings in your life, it's great to enjoy them and use them. And so sometimes people don't do things for themselves because they don't have the confidence to know that they can use their money. And so part of this book is hopefully going to inspire people to not only just be generous to the world, but to themselves, and and to give themselves permission and confidence that they can use their money rather than just storing it up and saving it for later.
I love that. And I think too, it was something unique. I got to read the book and pull some quotes and things. I thought it was really unique that there's real life examples and they're not all perfect. It's the ups, the downs, and you see a lot. And I think you using actual examples of real life people was just really able to help the reader connect and see what the possibilities are. So I think that was something really cool in your book.
Yeah, and I'll just reaffirm something that's in there too. It is a judgment-free zone. I've learned over time my work has to be a judgment-free zone because we all come from different backgrounds. We've all come from different teachings. We all have different perspectives about what is right and wrong with our money. And so I try to share stories in a way that's not saying this person did it right, this person did it wrong. It's just one way that some people have done it. And if that resonates with you, then jump on and join them. And if it doesn't, then do it differently.
Awesome. It looks like we have a question from Marcy. So if you want to unmute and ask, or if you want to send it.
Hi, Zach. Do you have your own retirement plan in place already?
I do, but after I learned about the finances of book writing, Marcy, it's not moving faster. So my retirement plan, if you want the long answer, has also been in the works for about 23 years. As I dug through and I found this term paper today, I found my own net worth statement that Kristen and I did for the first time together in July of 2004. So it was a year after we were married. There wasn't much on it at that point. And part of this book is like challenging myself, challenging all of us to say life is not about just accumulating the biggest net worth, but we all measure it. And so, yeah, I look at it, but I don't think I will be retiring sooner based on writing this book.
Thank you.
Awesome. If anybody else has a question, feel free to raise your hand. And I'm going to go a little bit off script here just because I know a lot of you guys might not be aware of this. So Zach, you were really wanting to drive home. I mean, this is more than a book. There are end of chapter worksheets, ways that you can immediately implement this into your own life. Why was it important to you to put things like that in place for people to actually take action while they're reading this book?
Yeah, I am a strong advocate for doing rather than just contemplating. I'm an action-oriented person, and information without action is worthless. It would be a waste of time for me to have written the book and for you to read the book or anybody to read it if you're not going to do anything with it. And so I wanted to equip people to do that on their own. So we brainstormed. Your company was a big help in that, pulling things together of visuals and how it works. But it's really taking exercises that we've done with our clients and as a company to say, how can you track things maybe a little bit differently? How can you take a progression step by step? If you're wanting to build intentionality in your retirement in your life, how can you do that? So at the end of each chapter, there's reflection questions or things to do on your own. Scan a QR code and it'll take you out to the website where you can actually work on some things too.
Yeah, I thought that was really great for the readers to actually be able to implement. Like you said, a lot of times you read it and then you can forget it. But with this one, there's real things you could do after each chapter. Okay, so our next question, we have got a lot of the folks that are already here have worked with you before. So is this going to be new information they get from the book, or is this going to be something that they've already seen?
You will not notice a change in philosophy or perspective. So what's here is not just my thinking. This is how intention operates. So my partners are living intentionally tonight. Corey is on a golf trip with some friends that he had pre-scheduled. Jacob is coaching a flag football game for one of his kids. But Corey and Jacob and Jeff and Joe, my colleagues, advisors, we're trying to deliver a planning process that helps you be intentional and thoughtful about your money and stay accountable to it. And our team of people who's on the call with me, a lot of them here tonight, we're all here to build up a thoughtful, accountable process. And there's nothing new in here from that perspective. But I think what is new is just a format or a formulation to think about it, and some ideas that we don't always share in meetings what somebody else is doing. But it's kind of cool to think or hear about, oh, they did it this way. That resonates with me.
Love that. Fabulous. Okay. Anybody else from the audience want to ask? So we've got one question from Mark. So what would be a concrete piece of advice you would give a young person just entering the workforce regarding saving? What is the most important first step?
Mark, you're not a young person anymore. Mark's my junior high school buddy. His kids are going to be in that spot just like mine pretty soon. One of the concepts I wrote about in the book came from another book I read called The Millionaire Next Door. And that whole concept of the millionaire next door, I feel like boils down to this one principle of spend less than you make. And I mean, we could joke about it. That's kind of an un-American thing to do right now, is spend less than you make. But those who prepare well for the future, they give off the top, they save off the top, and then they spend what's left. And I was just talking with my 17-year-old about this, and he said, well, I do that. And I said, well, you do in a way, but most of the money that he earns goes into a checking account, and then it flows out to Chipotle and Raising Cane's and Starbucks, and it just goes out. And then I'm not picking on him because all of us do this, but it leads to feelings by the end of the month of, oh, I wish I would have saved some more, or I wish I would have given some more. And there's feelings of guilt and regret. So we just flip it and we say, choose those things right off the top that are important to you, give it first, save it first, and then go have fun spending what's left.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. All right, we've got a couple more questions in the pin here. And Marcy, I saw you raise your hand again. I'm going to read Nick's and then I'll let you go up. Okay, so Nick says, now that you've published one book, do you see yourself writing another?
Nick's a published author as well, I believe, right? Yeah. I think for me, like many, once you get into it, I've realized it's not as daunting as I thought it would be. There are other books in my mind. There's more Christmas cards to write, though, before the next book gets out.
Beautiful. Love that. And then I don't know if you saw, you have a request to go to dinner from your beautiful wife.
She made it after the flag football game. It's awesome.
Join in. Awesome. Okay, Marcy, do you want to go ahead and ask your other question? You're on mute. Oop, Marcy, you're on mute.
You said you were using some specific real life examples in your book, and I'm sure you wouldn't use names, but will people recognize themselves?
People who are in here No, they're in here.
Okay,
And it was written hopefully for people not to recognize them.
okay.
Names are changed, details are
Yeah,
changed.
yeah.
Yeah, trying to
Okay.
protect the anonymity and just draw out the inspiration.
Okay, thank you.
So because I saw Kristen jump on here, it's a good time actually to read something from the end of the book because there's a few of the people on here. And again, if they don't get into the book at some point, they may miss what's at the end. So I'm going to just read a quick 4 acknowledgments in here for some people who have encouraged and inspired me in big ways. So first of all, to Kristen, my love, my life partner, thank you for encouraging me to write real. Without our conversations and your corrections on my writing and speaking through the years, this book would have been twice as long and half as good. Corey's not on the call, but I will certainly share this with him too. And before I read this about Corey, I have had a very supportive leadership team here. Ashley, I see you here. She's cleared space so that I could write. She's cleared space so that I could think. She's cleared space so that we could get this done as a team. And I want to say thanks to you for that. And our clients, our team has dealt with schedules that have juggled and things like that as we've gotten down to the home stretch here too. But to Corey, my friend and business partner, thanks for encouraging me to find the words for our company, even when you're often the one with the idea or the action. This book wouldn't have happened without your trust and confidence. Even though the words on these pages are mine, we've shared the stories together along the way, and our impact is forever intertwined. To my parents who are both on the call and my in-laws who are both on here now too, Keith Larson and Ginger Anderson Larson, and my in-laws Mark and Rita Bodden, thanks for teaching and modeling compassion, creativity, and commitment to generosity. The way that you care for your families and your communities is an inspiration. And finally, to someone who's not on the call here, but if you've ever gotten into writing a book, you know the value of an editor. I never met my editor in person. I was introduced to her separately. We worked over Zoom and on the phone and emails, but her name is Hillary Jastrom, and I just want to say thanks publicly for encouraging and guiding me. She believed in me from the start and made this really come to life. I get my name on the book as an author, but I've learned it takes an incredible team to make a book, and she really led the way for that. So I want to say thanks for that. So those are kind of the formal comments that I had. If there's other questions, I'll hang it out here for a while. I know some people are starting to have to go. I've seen some messages or got texts on that. So thank you for taking the time to be here. Glenn, a very heartfelt, grateful thank you to you. You put a lot of extra time into it during a very busy season for you. I appreciate you. And
Appreciate you too.
if you are so inclined to read the book, we'll let you know when it's available on Amazon. If you want to buy one that's non-compliant, I did not advise you to do that. It is out there, but within a few days, it'll be corrected and ready to go.
Beautiful. And real quick, before you guys do hop off, we do have a winner for the book giveaway, and then we have another question in the chat that we'll get to. But our winner for the book giveaway is going to be Susan Greeley. Woo.
Awesome.
So I'll coordinate with you, Susan, to get that book to you. And again, thank you all for joining us. If you want to stick around, we've got another question for Zach. Yes, so welcome. We've got another question for Zach in the chat. And then if anybody else has more questions, we can ask those as well.
Sounds great. Thanks, everyone.
Anyway, one question we've got in the chat is going to be, would love to know, with all you have going on, See Christmas Stories, how did you find the time to write a book? Also, with all you have going on, how is your beard not getting much grayer?
Dennis, I'm lucky to have blonde hair because the beard is definitely getting grayer. It just blends in a little bit. And the hair on top's going quickly as well. But I actually think the way I wrote it it's in the title. It was just simply intentionality. I got really good at a game on my phone and I deleted that game. I love going golfing on Fridays, and I gave up some Fridays. I like watching a show at night, and I gave that up. So I hope that my family didn't feel too much of a burden if I was gone, extra things for this. It really, I think it is just an example that all of us are busy, but there is time for what matters most. And when we commit to that, you guys can get anything done that you want to do. There is enough time for it. And this was just, for me, it was something that it was time. I wanted to do it, and you fit it in.
Beautiful. Thank you, Zach. Anybody else have?
Marcy, did you have a question?
You're on mute, Marcy. No, I think
She's
it was
good.
the last
Okay.
one. Yeah, I think her hand was just still raised. Perfect. Getting lots of congrats in the chat. And yes, this was an amazing feat and an amazing turnaround. Any other questions for Zach?
All
What's
right.
the coolest thing you learned? We got one more, then we'll call it. So the last one question is, what is the coolest thing you learned?
I mean, this right here is the coolest. I feel fortunate in my life to have people who care for me, who are friends, but it is just awesome to have a community come together and support me. So thank you.
Perfect. Awesome. So thank you all for joining us. As you know, keep an eye on Zach's LinkedIn. We do have the website, so retire-intentionally.com. Keep an eye on that. Like Zach said, we'll get the updated version of the book. We'll send out an email to all you guys so you know that it's live and you can grab a copy. And thank you all so much for joining us. Zach, congratulations. Thank you for bringing us on your journey. You are incredible. The parts of the book I got to read already. My first feedback to him, I said, oh my God, I have learned so much, and I'm just looking for quotes. So it's an incredible piece, and thank you for letting us be involved. And with that, we should wrap it up. Congratulations. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Kylie. Pass on my gratitude to all of the team there at JJR and Fig Factor as well.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Have a
Good
wonderful
job.